employment. They're going to add 15 new people. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority has been working with the EG and on a potential project on North Street, the Lezebnik property right across from the fairgrounds, right north of the fairgrounds. We have a Michigan businessman who wants to consolidate several businesses into that building complex, if you will, which would clean up that property substantially. The issue really is we need to do our more environmental due diligence on that property to make sure that what's in the ground, or if there's in the ground, it needs remediation. So the JCBRA has allocated some funds to the property, but until that remediation study's done, the businessman probably won't make a commitment to move forward until we have a clean bill of health on that piece of property. A couple updates on the industrial park. Getting the easements for all the improvements along County Farm Road has been kind of a challenge. It's slowed us down a little bit. JCDOT has had to realign some of the work along County Farm because a couple easements, the people wouldn't give us those easements. Not major things to the property, but it's like driveway approaches and some of those types of things that have to be reconfigured. But we have all of them we need now. They've been submitted to the EDA for their preliminary approval. And once our rep looks at them, they'll go to legal. All that is being packed, all the purchase of those easements being packaged up, and they will be presented to the county commissioners, I think, at the February 15th meeting. Once you approve those, we'll be able to let bids and hopefully get work underway this summer. Springtime bid letting, I think, is what we're talking about, March or April, with a groundbreaking in June. That will be done in two phases. The road and the infrastructure into the park will be done in 2022, and then the county farm improvements will be done in 2023. Because we want to get that road into the park so that we can start selling those parcels. The other project staff's been working on is Jackson Oven. They are on Wayland Drive, actually same place Fry Crisp is. We're negotiating right now with them on some final issues as far as roadway and infrastructure improvements in the Mackey Industrial Park. We expect a formal written offer from them sometime in the next couple weeks on 8 acres in the park for them to build a new facility in the Mackey Industrial Park. That would be the first sale of that property since the Mackey facility went up. We still have about 10 acres that would be available, and that's one of the things we're talking about is how we configure that property to be able to utilize the other 10 acres if and when we would have another prospect. So the placement of the roadway is kind of what we're going back and forth on. We've been working with our partners at GAR, our regional partners, we have five-county MEDC region. We were given about $300,000 to do some training grants and allocated across the 5 counties. $60,000 of that will be going to the Manufacturers Association to purchase some training robots for skilled position training. We just made that decision, I guess, 2 weeks ago. Just a quick update, our unemployment rate in December was 4.6%. That ranks about 30th in the state. Lowest is Livingston County at 3%. Highest is Mackinac County at 13%. And as of this morning, we have about 1,450 open jobs in Jackson County. That number has not changed significantly. It's come down a little bit. It was close to 1,500, a little over 1,500 right around the holidays. So it's come down a little bit, but we still have many, many job openings and more job openings than we have people that are applying for them. And I know many of you experience those same things. So if we could answer any questions, I'd be happy to do that.
Questions for Tim? Just a statement. I mean, Fry Crisp is looking at adding 16 people. You're putting a lot of energy into their project. Where are they going to get the people?
Well, they're advertising for their people right now, and frankly, what's happened is I think wages now are starting to get bid up, and people are stealing from each other. I can't answer that question. I wish I could. We have. I mean, you guys drive down the street every day. You could see billboards where people are advertising for jobs. There are job openings. We're not experiencing anything that anybody else in this country isn't experiencing during turnover and the Great Resignation. So wages are getting bid up significantly, and I think that's going to continue.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
If I could, Phil,
Pardon me?
if I may.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Scott, for the presentation. I apologize for being late, sir. I did get to read through your documentation. I do want to comment on where employees are coming from at Frycrisp. The owner of that is very unique in his way of hiring people. He doesn't hesitate to take some of the people that other people wouldn't be interested in and training them and retraining them and getting them online so they can work for him. And they have become very loyal employees. And I'm sure the Enterprise Group is aware of Mr. Arts' reputation with Elm Plating, reputation with the other companies that he's assisted Jackson in keeping here. And keeping them open and keeping them running, and I really believe that he looks at the long-term advantage, retraining, education, employee benefits, and that it's really a good place to go to work. It's a very clean environment, and I think if a lot of people realized who Frycrisp sells to and how much they impact, the difference involved. So yeah, Frycrisp just isn't the box of onion ring mix at your local Polly's. It's he's everywhere. He's on cruise ships. He's all over the United States. So yeah.
He actually is working with our procurement technical assistant staff right now to do some Department of Defense work as well. And I know Steve has, actually I know some people in the community, Steve does a lot of recruiting on his own through things like LinkedIn, where he goes out and searches people out and then contacts them directly if he sees somebody he thinks would be a good fit. So he doesn't just do it the normal post a job way type.
Correct. He reminds me a lot of a former garbage hauler that I know that didn't hesitate to bet on people that they could come to work for him and become great employees. So yeah.
I was using Frycrisp because that was the thing we just talked about, okay? Not picking on nobody. It's like maybe you're in the wrong mission. We wanted jobs for a long time. You've created jobs. Now you need to create employees.
Well, that's, we have a executive board retreat coming up in April, and a number of the things that are not really considered traditional economic development are on that agenda, and where we're going to go with those issues like training and housing and high-speed internet. I know you all have discussed that too. A lot of people are recruiting people to work from their homes, and high-speed internet's a big issue. So there's a lot of things that aren't direct assistance type economic development issues that we're going to have to set a course for the future on. So we're going to have that discussion coming up in April.
I can't lay my finger on what's wrong, but our economy, well, you know the story. I mean, there's jobs galore, high-paying jobs, and people drive right by and go on their way. They're not interested.
And we're going to have more competition for the jobs that we have. So the mega project starts happening up in the Lansing area with General Motors and electrical vehicles. They're going to get that many hires, they're going to have a pretty far reach. And they already reach into Jackson County, but their reach will become even greater, I think.
That brings up a question that I would like to ask you. Where are we at on, and this was 2016, there was discussion of a science facility being built on Michigan State campus that involved, it wasn't, the super collider type thing, but it was everything right up to it.
The accelerator.
And we were going to see huge job input, and there was a huge federal government investment up there. Is that still online, and are we still looking at 2026? Is that
I
coming
haven't
online?
had an update or heard an update on that, Steve. But when we talked about that, I think that went into some of your discussion about strategic planning and where those people are going to live and housing. And frankly, there's a big push on mega site development in the state right now. Marshall's one of those that the state pushes out. We're a part of one of the staff people, Alex, sits on a committee about that exact issue. They're coming to us right now and say, okay, what's your housing plans for the next 5 years? Where's new housing development going to take place? If we attract these companies, where are people going to live? And that's a big question. I mean, that has to be discussed amongst not just the EG, but amongst the community. How are we going to house, educate, provide health care? if there's 5,000 new people in Marshall, it's going to impact our economy. And it's going to impact our economy positively, but it's also, the small and mid-sized manufacturers are going to have to compete with a 5,000 person employer. So there's a lot of big picture issues that we as a community really need to have some discussion around to see where we have limited resources, and we have to figure out which one of these subjects are we going to are we going to lead on them? Are we going to be partners on them? And where the resources going to come from? And housing's a great example, and I know you all deal with builders and no builders. They can't find people. So even if you had the money and the demand for housing, there aren't a lot of craftsmen right now to build houses. So it's an interesting time.
Where did they go?
Right now, a lot of our craftspeople are being, I hate to use the word, but kind of sucked over to Ann Arbor to the projects that are going on there. And there's not a lot of new young people going into those trades.
Well, strategically, the state, if you look at it population-wise, really hasn't grown. We dealt with 8 years of 1 million people leaving and a governor who thought that was funny and okay and packed her bags and went to California.
And a lot of movement within the state.
And we now have to convince another whole generation of 8th graders that a career path is carpentry and HVAC and plumbing and electricity and staying in Michigan. You go in 1998, we were at 9.8 million people, and where are we at now? 9.8 million people. We need to convince people that this is not only a great place to live, which we know, but that they can stay here and make a nice living.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Tim. Okay, we'll move on to item 4D, Internet Department, IT Commission Chambers Technology Refresh. Welcome, Michelle.
Morning. I'm not sure what I have will beat Fry Crisp, but I'm sure you guys will like this. No onion rings, I'm sorry, but at least you'll be able to hear maybe when we get finished. Okay, what I have before you today is a redo for the meeting room in this space. We are going to, you have an inventory list of what needs to be replaced in the room to make it more efficient and make it more the meeting experience better for everyone, including the audience. This funding is come through the Internet Services account and is kind of a local partner, IST. They also do our event center. They have done our event center space, so you might see their work over at the event center. We will be replacing all of the microphones, the little voting tablets you guys have back there. The microphones are set up so you can stand farther back and not be right on top of it without hearing, so that would be good. And also, excuse me, televisions back to back here and here. We'll be replacing the television over there. That one will go away. But all in all, the inventory list you have in front of you, if you have any questions about that, there's also a diagram that shows where everything will be.
Quick question, you mentioned the voting tabulator.
Correct.
We don't use those.
Oh.
And we do it right from our laptops.
Yes.
So could we cut that out of the bid possibly?
Actually, there's going to be mini iPads for each of you that will be stationary to your workspace.
Okay.
So everyone will have their own there. We'll vote through an iPad.
Okay.
So how does that combine with what they already have iPads?
You could use it, you don't need tab 2. You can bring one with you, but the idea is that everyone will have, it'll be just a little one to be purposed of the voting and to display if you want. That voting tablet will replace everything that you need. Also, the control boxes will also be replaced with an iPad.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I think everybody's comfortable the way we're voting on our things, and that might be a cost that we don't necessarily need.
We could,
Clerk brings the vote up right on our screen.
right.
Sometimes they use it, I think,
Okay, no problem. Actually, we can probably have that updated so that those can go away. If you guys are comfortable with that, if anyone is not using an iPad, you're voting through Board Docs, right? Okay, correct.
Well,
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask whether the system will be flexible enough that if we have a change in the number of commissioners, it can add more, but I suppose by the time that would occur, 10 years from now, all this stuff would be obsolete anyway. So I don't know that I necessarily have a question, simply a observation on the obsolescence of technology. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Michelle. Looking at your floor plan here, I see that you've got 13 stations put here. You've got one. Well, my main question is, don't you need 14?
Well, I'd have to do a count here. Okay, it could be just that he didn't do the diagram right. I did account for 14, that number does sound accurate. So if the diagram is not showing that, I can have that updated.
Okay, so 14 is in your inventory list, it's just not in the graphic?
Correct.
Thank you.
You have one for IT, and also it could be flexible. I know that the 10 years, which was a good point that you brought up, would be scalable and flexible if we needed to add other people. We also considered that other people might be using the space too for voting. I also wanted to put out there also, I'm not sure if you noticed that the vendor is also going to make a donation back to make the cost come down as well as a partner, because we do partner with them.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, no problem.
I like to make everybody aware when we have people donate to
Sure.
our cause.
Right.
Okay, we need a motion and support for more discussion. We have a motion by Commissioner Pulaski, support by Commissioner Snell. All in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, same. Passes unanimously.
Just for clarity on my part, is it the desire of the board that we go without the iPad solution, that you guys use your own devices?
Mr. Administrator, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I had a question there in regard to that. Because you're talking about having a dedicated iPad for each station, and then what these guys are suggesting is they use their own iPads, the iPads we provide them. The question then becomes, does everyone use an iPad? Not everyone here does. Some of them use a laptop. Is it commingleable? You know, can you
I think the advantage of iPads at every station isn't the commissioners. I think you're missing out on all the other committees and other organizations that use this room to function in. You'll be making a workstation available then for us to have board docs for all of our meetings, Mike. It's not just the 9 of us that we need to worry about. It's Region 2 planning and all of that kind of stuff. Those people then could have access to it, and we'd be able to put their minutes on our board docs and be able to operate. Maybe we move Parks and Fair and everyone else up here too, so we're online. Going forward, the advantage would be tremendous for all of our other meetings.
I would concur that any of the existing departments within the county that are using board docs could easily meet here, and it would be correct. They'd all be online. It'd be nice.
And visually online?
Yeah, especially with the YouTube version of all this. And frankly, I suppose we could open it up for organizations that aren't part of the county that have their own board docs license. They can't use our license, but if they have their own license, they can surely use our equipment. Would that?
Absolutely.
We'll look into it more and come to some conclusion on it.
Okay.
Tony?
Michelle, I switched to the sheet that has kind of your inventory.
Correct.
Would you please double check that?
I've gone over it several times with the vendor. We've actually removed some things out of there that were obsolete, that weren't necessary. I have gone through it. I believe it's accurate. I will definitely go through it again just to double check.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? We have a motion?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good deal.
All set?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a good day, everyone.
Move on to committee item 4E, facilities. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. You have before you a request to approve the contract with R.W. Mercer to do the animal shelter remodeling and renovation project.
Questions? Discussion? I have a question. I don't see any contingent fee in here. Is the price firm?
The price is firm.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion support if we don't have any discussion. You moved it, Rod? Or you have a question? No. Okay, moved by Rodney, supported by Snell. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioners.
Go on to item 4F, finance. Welcome, Cecilia.
Good morning. So in front of you, you have December's financial statements. As you can see, our projected revenue and our projected expenses, our revenues are higher than our expenses, roughly about $2.1 million. Originally, when the last budget amendment I did, I was projecting about $1.9 million. So right now, we're still going through year-end close, where they'll be adjusting revenues and expenses and prepaids and that type of thing. So I'm expecting we're probably going to close around probably $2.2 million of revenue being higher than expenses. One thing I do want to point out on the financial statements on page 3, in the operating transfers out, I went ahead and put in my budgeted number that I was expecting to be able to close into fund balance of $1.9 million, just because I know for sure we're going to have that. I just wanted to make sure we had that in there, just for presentation purposes. And then the other thing that I want to bring to your attention to is an opportunity that we had due to our ARPA funding, because from March into September, we were able to get some ARPA funding for reimbursement of payroll costs for the jail. And because we did that, we didn't need to move money from our jail millage to support our jail operations, so we're carrying that money over into '22 that we'll have available for our jail operations. In addition, so it'll be about $2 million we'll have available to support our jail operations in '22. So that was an opportunity that we were able to do this year. Is there any questions anyone has?
Commissioner Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed that the Board of Commissioners are at 78% of budget,
Yeah,
and aren't we admirably frugal, I suppose?
Yeah.
What is it that we budgeted for that we didn't seem to spend?
I know you didn't have dues. There wasn't any dues cost in your Board of Commissioners line item. That was one. I know that was noticing. I don't have a detail in here, but I do have a different, let's see here. If there's
Conference and trainings.
conference and trainings, okay.
We budgeted, but didn't have it. We're correct.
And if they probably pay it out of there, so, okay. So, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Pulaski. So, Cecilia, if I read this right, we come in about 3% under budget,
Yeah.
so that goes to next year.
Yeah, we'll go into our fund balance. So what we were hoping, because of all of the ARPA money that we were able to use for payroll reimbursements for the COVID, is that the whole point was to try to get, have 24% of our fund balance available. I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. So, but we'll see how it all plays out. But at the end of the day, we can use it next year for when we start using our budget and stuff, so,
We are back up near or exceeding 24%.
yeah.
Which is the max-up policy, right?
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
In the past, the Administrator Controller's Office came back with projects that the Board of Commissioners felt were very important and we were able to do them with this, in the past with this surplus. I'm not asking us to spend it, I'm just asking us to consider different projects that may be important to the long-term advantages of Jackson. The possibility of looking for some new space to be able to put another park together like we have in Blackman, or working with something strategically long-term to be able to work with. That's all I would like to say.
Question for the administrator, then, could we roll this into a capital improvement fund? Because we don't have one.
We do have one, and we can, yeah, we'll bring back some suggestions. We don't want to really exceed our policy. We'd like to stay at the 24% mark.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have some flexibility there, and we have some unknowns coming up in '22 that are yet to be determined that will, we're talking like $1 million swings that we need to be cognizant of and take care to plan for either direction. But we'll speak more about that.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
You know, and just so you know, my suggestion too is to wait till we get through our audit too, to make sure there isn't going to be major changes that will happen. So that will happen in June. So if we can wait until maybe June to make those decisions, that'll be even, that's my suggestion too.
Thank you. Any more questions for finance? Thank you, Cecilia.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have item 4G.
We need to receive the report.
Pardon me?
Do we need to receive the report?
I don't know. Huh? We do? That's your motion. Yeah, okay.
I move to
Motion
receive.
the report. Have a motion support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you, and we'll just make that a practice from now on. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you. Good morning. So we are proposing to make some improvements to two of our county park boat ramps, something that we talked about heavily throughout the the campaign for the millage a few years back for parks. So our current ramps, I would say they're unimproved. They don't mainly include any concrete planks or docks. So that's essentially what these materials are. The DNR shared their specifications with us. They've got over 1,000 ramps throughout the state, so we thought that'd be a good model to try to mimic. So we put those out to bid, and we're recommending Midbrook.
Okay, Brook. Yeah, I read up on that.
So these are for Vineyard Lake and Swains Lake.
Swains. Okay, is there anything about Clark Lake? They've got a very funky boat launch that you gotta block the road to.
Yeah, that's, I think most folks use the boat ramp at the other end or at the club there in the middle of the lake, but, yeah, it's shallow there and you have to be in the road basically to back in. It's not an ideal situation, but it's shallow is the main problem.
Okay, board, boat ramp authorization to spend the money and award the contract to Midbrook.
Move to adopt.
Support. Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you. We're now down to item 4H. Parks, pickleball complex.
Yes, if you recall, we received good news in December that a grant was recommended from the DNR Trust Fund for the development of a pickleball complex at Sparks Foundation County Park. So the grant becomes official in probably May or June is when we'll get the project agreement. But in the meantime, we can start to design the project. So that's what this recommendation is, to hire Smith Group to do the design work. Essentially, the grant allows for just over $59,000 for this portion of the project. So we put that out, basically it was kind of a reverse bid to see what we would get for that amount. And we are recommending Smith Group, who they did the renderings for the project as well as the master plan for the park.
Questions, discussion? Motion and support.
I'll move that.
Moved by Snell, supported by Pulaski. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Carl.
Okay, thank you.
Move on to item 5. Make sure we've signed on, but we need a motion to pay the claims. Make sure you signed it. We need a motion and support.
Move to pay the claims.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. We have no other minutes. Item B. Item C, it's the reporting schedule for next month. We have finance, treasurer, equalization, and the conservation district. Down item 6, we are again at public comment. No public comment. Committee member comment. Meeting adjourned.